Man, Splatoon 2 sure is a heck of a mess of fun. In fact, I'd actually go an ass hair further and say that it's even better than Splatoon 1. But after scoring over 1,000 points and finding the gemstone of Kromdar in level 7, I've gotta admit it does feel like there's something missing. I can't quite put my finger on it, but if the game added scooters, human beings wearing full pads, violence, sexually explicit content, drug references, and stages based on Die Hard 2, then it'd easily be the best game ever made. Unfortunately though, no such game exists at the time of this recording, but there is a game out there that offers 2 of the 6 features I mentioned called Crayola Scoot. If you take one look at the box, you might think it's just some kind of cheap Splatoon knockoff, because of course it is. But you know what, every genre of video games has to have a first, so it's really not fair to call the second a knockoff as long as it's done right. So with that being said, is this game really as bad as it looks? Is it so bad it's good? Or is it possible that it might actually be decent, and dare I say comparable in any way to Splatoon? Well, given that it was brought to you by the same team who made Race with Ryan, I don't think giving Splatoon a run for its money is out of the question. So pour yourself a glass of melted crayons, don't forget to write my incarcerated father a letter, press the subscribe button if you haven't already, and allow me, the world's oldest child, CameronAllOneWord, to answer the burning question that's on everybody's mind. Which game is ultimately better between Crayola Scoot and Splatoon 2? Okay, so I'm sure you've all probably seen this game in passing and got a good laugh out of it, but chances are you didn't have the grapefruits to actually pick it up. And admittedly, I fell into that category too, because I already had Splatoon 2, so why would I pay $40 for something that was probably a watered-down knockoff? But unlike Nintendo's scooterless counterpart, this game's not exclusive to the Switch. So for people who only have a PS4 or Xbone, this game's the next best thing to Splatoon, and really the only thing that's even similar at all. And since I was able to get the game on sale at Best Buy for like $10, I thought I'd take one for the team and see what the hell's even going on here. I just wish I waited a few days though, because it was eventually on sale for like $3 on the eShop, but meh, what are you gonna do? Anyway, let's poop this baby in. Huh, I've gotta be honest, the menu looks somewhat promising. There's a nice jam playing, lots of colors, a distinct style. Maybe this is worth $3 after all. Never mind. The creative characters options are even more lackluster than my dumbass son's macaroni that he has the audacity to call art. Get out of here, boy, I'm trying to play Scoot, damn it. Anyway, sorry about that. The only real options you have to pick from are your gender, skin colors, height, and splat color. Wait, what? Really? They're actually gonna call it splat color, huh? Well, if you're gonna be so blatant about being a knockoff, then why not go all the way, I guess? I mean, at least the game's not ashamed to be what it is. Aside from the splat color, there's only 5 different skin colors to choose from and 3 heights. But it looks like you're choosing your age more so than your height. I mean, just look at this asshole. He could probably vote and buy booze looking like that. Meanwhile, this little tyke still looks like he has soft spots. Good thing he's wearing a helmet, I guess. I've got to be honest, so far it looks like Splatoon doesn't have anything to worry about, but you know what, who cares about making a character, they're just gonna die someday anyway. Let's see how the actual gameplay stacks up. Well, much like the menu, the graphics are actually pretty decent. I'm not saying it's incredible or anything, but for a game smaller than a gigabyte, I think it went above and beyond. Although, comparing it to Splatoon's a little ridiculous, but to be fair, graphics are subjective anyway, so let's get to the real meat and potatoes. Unsurprisingly, the game's got a number of differences from Splatoon, despite trying so hard to come off as a clone. It controls a lot more like EA Skate than it does Splatoon, and it has a heavy emphasis on tricks rather than being completely focused on marking your territory with fluids. Unfortunately though, the trick selection's pretty weak. Now, I may not be the most knowledgeable guy when it comes to scooters, so maybe the developers know something I don't, but it looks like they forgot to put a lot of key tricks into the game. All I know is that if all you can do on scooters are bar spins, tail whips, and backflips, then they probably should have put skateboarding or BMX into the game instead. I know there's already plenty of that in video games as it is, so scooters do stand out a little bit more, but the reason there aren't more scooter games is because most people don't think they're very cool. They might have chosen scooters to appeal to kids, but if that's the case, then why is this full-grown man hanging out here? Somebody better keep their eye on him, that's all I'm saying. Aside from the weak trick selection, the game only lets you grind very specific obstacles, which just screams to me that the game was made by people who don't even scoot. Friggin' posers, beat it, kooks! Locals only, you goddamn grommets! Also, regardless of what difficulty you're playing on, there's not even any balancing, so once you're grinding, you just kinda go forever. This obviously makes it really easy to rack up points, and you do eventually slow down, but you can pick up more speed by using your boost. However, you can only do this as long as you have Splat, but that brings me to my main problem with this game. And that problem is, why do scooters spray paint, ink, splatter, whatever you want to call it? In Splatoon, it makes sense to spread your ink around using guns, brushes, and rollers. But in Crayola Scoot, mysterious liquids are just spraying from your scooter for no reason at all. I guess the homie style's just so sick that these characters can't help themselves but to spray goo all over the place. It just kind of feels like Crayola decided out of nowhere that they want a Splatoon knockoff in the market and then gave the developers like 20 minutes to come up with something. And seeing as how that's impossible to do, the team just added ink into the build of a scooter game they were already working on. I could overlook scooters being the method of distributing gloop if it were somehow fun, but controlling them's even more miserable than it sounds. Much like Splatoon, there's a variety of different game modes to choose from, but the only thing that's similar to Splatoon at all is Color Frenzy. It's basically the same as Turf War, except here you can do it by yourself as well as in a team. However, playing it by yourself makes you realize why Splatoon didn't even give you the option option. Simply put, it's just not very fun. And not only that, but the only way to spread your DNA around is to constantly do tricks, so if you want to cover more ground, then you're gonna have to spam tricks on flat. And like you probably already guessed, it's just as miserable as it is inefficient. Not to mention, it doesn't help that the handling and controls are pretty subpar for the task. Even on the hardest difficulty, the amount of ground left uncovered at the end of every 2-minute match feels like more than half the map, and that only further supports my theory that this game wasn't originally intended to be a Splatoon knockoff. It's pretty lame you gotta use your phone as a middleman to use voice chat in Splatoon, but Scoot doesn't even give you the option to play online at all. I mean, not that you'd want to anyway. And seeing as how that's the case, it's pretty obvious that Splatoon's better at being Splatoon than Crayola Scoot is. I really wasn't expecting much, especially since the game was $3 on the Switch's eShop, and I'm sure it's not going to be long before it's back to that price. But I've got to say, I'm pretty surprised they found a way to make spreading your color around the map so inefficient. And not only that, but there's only 3 friggin' maps in the entire game, with each one neither being fun for doing tricks nor to color your paint in. Aside from the color frenzy mode and the loading screens playing Splatoon sound effects, though. The rest of the game's really trying to copy Tony Hawk's Pro Skater more than anything else. There's Trick Run where you win by scoring the most points. Crazy Crayons to see who can collect 5 crayons the fastest, which is kinda like collecting the skate letters in Tony Hawk, except instead of being remotely hidden, they're in plain sight on a map that's already too small, so the game always lasts like 30 seconds. And then finally there's Tag, which is just as boring as it is self-explanatory. Each of the game's whopping 3 stages are just playing these same modes over and over again under 3 separate difficulties. I thought it was kinda difficult at first, but once you figure the controls out, you can't really tell the difference between easy and hard. It doesn't really matter whether or not you complete these challenges anyway, though. Because even if you keep failing like I did for a while, other scooter connoisseurs are going to start challenging you to games of Scoot once you get enough points. Which works nothing like how Skate works in real life, but then again, the Tony Hawk games never got it right either. Beating all these jabronis and Scoot's the ultimate goal of the game since you're trying to be the very best like no one ever was. All you gotta do to win these is just grind for a long time and let the points rack up, cause for some reason the computer doesn't think to grind. In fact, it usually just botches it once its turn comes up regardless. You'd think these so-called legends be a lot harder to beat seeing as how most of them aren't even human, and maybe they do get harder to beat later on. But you know what, I'm not gonna keep playing to find out, cause it's just not very fun and it takes forever. And besides, this game already kept me away from Fire Emblem long enough, and I haven't even opened Astral Chain yet. So yeah, I don't really give a monkey's nutsack about being the best scooter rider in the world. There's also a shop that offers a small variety of different parts and outfits that aren't very cool, blah blah blah. But none of that matters at all, cause the bottom line is that this game tries to be like Tony Hawk, EA Skate, and Splatoon, and it does a bad job at all of it. To be fair, Scoot was moderately fun for literally 5 minutes, and the graphics and music are slightly above acceptable, but even though the game's as low as $3 friggin', it's hard to justify even wasting time on it. The best thing I could say about Crayola Scoot is that if it were a PS1 launch title, then it might have been one of those games people would appreciate in hindsight. But in 2019 though, there's really no way to justify playing this game at all. You might have thought that was obvious and that it was unnecessary to make a video, and no, I honestly never thought this game was actually going to be better than Splatoon. But when I bought this game, I was hoping it was going to be so bad it's funny, or at the very least have an over-the-top storyline or something like that. Unfortunately though, it was just considerably below average, and that's just sad. Anyway, if you've ever played Crayola Scoot, then let me know what you think about it in the comments below, and I'll try my goddamnedest to respond to everybody. But let me tell you, if there's 2 people who would never make a scooter game this boring, it would definitely be today's patrons of the day, Austin Garcia and Tim Ford. If you want to be badasses like these two, then consider supporting FU Game Crew on Patreon for loot boxes in the mail and other wacky rewards. And if you want to make a cameo, then send pictures or videos of you rocking any FU Game Crew merch like these legendary human beings you see before you. As always, like and share this video anywhere on the internet to help this channel grow. And if you want to prove that you're not down with registered sex offenders, then go ahead and press the subscribe button if you haven't already. My name's CameronAllOneWord, and I'll be back with more videos soon.
So I want to say thank you to your loyalty, thank you for your support.